This week, we're going to be talking about technology systems, and the first lesson of the week is about chat and chat systems. Before we do, the topics that are going to be covered this week include chat systems, email, video calls, knowledge management, meeting management, product management, help desk, and CRM. You may not need every single one of these systems. However, you will need something to serve the purpose of each of these systems, depending on what your organization does. So let's start with chat, because chat systems suck. They suck for knowledge management. They suck for product management. They suck for project management, and they suck for support. So they suck at basically everything. And yet they are vital because they help provide the pulse. They provide visibility. They are fast. They have history, and they are searchable. So let's talk about steps to make them suck less. We need to focus on the 4 primary steps, which are killing private chat, having an enforced structure, using threads, and using the right tool. So kill private chat. You really need to kill private chat. And what does that mean? That is private chat about topics that shouldn't be private. It means all account-based questions should be visible to the team that are part of the account. There's knowledge in these discussions, there's learning in these discussions, and there's context building in these discussions. The discussion with 2 or 3 people might seem fine and appropriate, but what happens when you hire a new person who wasn't part of that private conversation? What happens to the other departments who may be able to add insight to the conversation, or more importantly, gather insight from that conversation? What happens to the person who was on vacation or had a sick day and does not get to be part of that conversation? To do this well, you want the knowledge associated with something to be associated with the dedicated channel that it is part of. Here's a big tip. You need to be the change that you want to see. Every time a private conversation happens, post a summary of that conversation in the appropriate channel. At Bob, thanks for asking about X. Per our conversation, we discussed Y and we decided Z. If you do this repeatedly, you will instill in everyone that this is the appropriate way to transfer private conversations to public channels, and that private conversations are not the accepted method of having a conversation. Highly structured and repeatable patterns. There is an advantage to consistency. It's important that we create highly structured and repeatable patterns, because then people can start to understand, predict, and anticipate what they should do inside our organization and for our customers. There's a joke in development that there's only 2 difficult things in programming: naming things, caching, and off by 1 errors. And if you're a nerd, you get it, but it basically means that off by 1 errors mean you missed up by counting 1 thing extra or not counting it. So we said there was 2 things, but there's actually 3. Yeah, I know it's a really bad joke, but the important thing is that naming things is hard, and you have to create and force patterns for naming. It is only through structured patterns that you can have a chance at clarity. So here are some general rules of thumb for naming. You start with fewer channels and channel types, and you expand as necessary. You have to use prefixes effectively. Prefixes create groups of similar names and conversations, and they allow for the grouping to be done automatically. Using emojis in your channel names if you can. Not all solutions allow it. Discord does, Slack does not. The examples that I'll show on the upcoming cheat sheet do use emojis. Obviously, you could just change it to a 3-letter prefix. This is a cheat sheet for chat channel naming and a checklist for highly structured channels. 1, use consistent prefixes and use a prefix for key accounts. 2, every key account should be structured with the same types of channels so that there's consistency in your organization. 3, consider departmental or purpose-based channels for key accounts if necessary. And 4, use emojis if you can, like on Discord. So for each account, we would do the first 2 steps. Step 1, we would have a key account prefix using a key emoji or the prefix ACT for an account. And 2, we would use an acronym for the account name. As an example, for McDonald's, we might say MCD. From there, we would now append that with the appropriate channel name. The first example is dealing with the open book channel. So this is the customer open book channel. You have this for a particular reason. This is if you invite your client champion or some of their employees to be part of your Slack or Discord or other chat system. And that allows you for a few key stakeholders to participate with you in the system where you can be the most reactive. Now there's some other dedicated channels. There might be an org success channel if you have a customer success team, an org support channel if you have a customer support team, and even a project prefix for account-specific projects. And this allows you to have project-specific channels for each of those key accounts so that you can service them in the best way possible. This is not to say you need to follow the structure, but you should have the same kinds of structures for all your key accounts. I have clients who have much more extensive channels and others who have just 2 channels per customer. For instance, following the key account naming pattern, but appending it with a public and a private channel for each account. For McDonald's, you might have ACT-MCD-PUB for public, or ACT-MCD-PRI for private. What matters is that you have the right conversations in the right places. And the simple example, the account McDonald's public channel allows the customers to communicate with you and you with them. The private channel allows you to have discussions the customer shouldn't see. If you go with departmental approach, the success channel allows your customer success team to discuss the particular account, and your support channel allows you to do the same thing for your support. This setup provides you context and provides the context to all the people who might not be part of the support team and who might not normally be using the support ticketing system. By having some of the conversations in your chat system, you can expose things to the whole organization as necessary and appropriate. So does that mean you should be solving tickets inside of your chat system? No, but there's a great way to potentially escalate something and say, hey, we have this issue, who can take care of it? Maybe somebody from another department can add context so that it's easier for the support department to take care of it. It's a great way of providing visibility and breaking down organizational silos. Look, we all talk, and chat systems we talk a lot, but you need to reduce the banter. Regardless of the company culture, the client-specific chat channels are not the place for excessive banter, memes, or GIFs. You can keep it professional on these channels and party elsewhere. I believe in work hard, play hard, but the channels that are about clients should be professional at all times. And they should speak professionally about the clients, and they shouldn't say anything negative about the clients in any of the channels. Why? Because that breeds this understanding that we can badmouth our clients, and that will carry over to the dealings with your employees that they have with the client. Always be professional. Always be respectful in the channels that are about the client and that are talking about the client. Feel free to have fun in a random channel. Don't do that in channels that are dedicated to clients or about clients. Use threads, because the channel should be on topic. There should be a lot of things going on in a particular area. Customer success might have 4 or 5 different things going on. And as you communicate, get comfortable with using threads and having large dialogues in threads. In particular, it's not abnormal for me to see 40 or 50 responses in a thread inside of a channel when you're dealing with questions or issues. Questions or issues should make heavy use of threads because the dialogue around it and the back and forth becomes contextualized, and sharing the thread can provide the whole understanding of the conversation that was happening. If it just happens randomly throughout the day inside of a channel without any threading, it becomes much harder to extract that content and context and use it and share it. Which actually brings up the next topic of using the right tool. This is really about moving or referencing the important information that comes from a chat. The truly important decisions or knowledge need to be moved to the appropriate system. The appropriate system depends on what you're doing. This could be a project management system, it could be a help desk, and it could be the knowledge base. It takes discipline, and it deserves to live in the right spot, because that's how you're going to build the process. That's how you're going to build the understanding. And that's how you're going to make an impact on building out your systems. If you've run across something that needs permanence, either say, hey, I'm moving this from this channel to this tool, or hey, Bob, can you go ahead and summarize this and put it from this channel into this tool? It becomes just like the example of making sure you take the private information and make it public. You need to be the example. You need to be the one, the change you want to see. You need to be the one that says, this looks like important information and it needs to be transferred into the appropriate system. I'm going to do it, or can you do it? This is the appropriate way to make sure that the knowledge that lives in the chat system can be seen by everybody in real time in the chat system, but ends up living in the appropriate system for the appropriate department. One of the reasons why I think it's critically important to do this is because we can context build and we can provide everyone access to a chat system, but not everyone necessarily has access to all of those dedicated tools for each department. So by having these accounts and having these channels and letting people see that, we have to build up this context and this understanding that might not be possible otherwise. I'm going to have an example, I think, is of the best way to improve communications in chat systems. I call these crazy effective requests. This is really effective because it's simple, it's repeatable, and it's a very easy pattern. I need X, buy Y, or Z. What do I need help with is the X. When do I need the help is the Y. And what is the consequence of not having the help is the Z. I need feedback on this presentation from Bob by 5 p.m. today, or I will send to the customer at 9 a.m. tomorrow. What I'm saying is, Bob, if you do not give me feedback by 5 p.m. tomorrow, I'm going to send it to the customer and I'm not going to have your feedback included. To make this work, you need to set the appropriate time window for your organization. You need to empower employees to push their managers. And this is really important. Your employees need to feel like they can hold their managers accountable by saying, Bob, I need your feedback by 5 p.m. You empower employees to take the action. Hey, for this kind of thing, it's okay if you do this. I'd like to review it first, but if I don't respond, you can go ahead and do this without me. You encourage others to participate by doing this publicly in a public channel. You're allowing other people to say, hey, I'm going to take a quick look at this presentation because I happen to know Bob's busy and maybe I can provide some help while he's busy. You have to own when something is missed. If I don't provide feedback, that's on me. Now, that doesn't mean that I get to be a complete scapegoat for my employees. You need to send a secondary ping as appropriate on the example, and you need to change or potentially the or clause in the conversation. For instance, I need feedback on this presentation from Bob by 5 p.m. today, and instead of maybe sending it to the customer, maybe that might not be allowed without feedback. So I might say something like, or I will miss a deadline and the customer will receive this late. So the or clause can be changed from depending on your organization or the particular item, but it's important. In addition, the managers become empowered to say, I cannot get to that before 5 p.m. Please delay and I will send you my feedback at 8. This is a very, very powerful way of moving the ball fast and faster. You just have to set the appropriate time window for the task and the team. But this, instead of having a 7-day delay between the presentation being ready for feedback and being sent to the customer, can shrink that window to, let's say, 12 hours in this example. Go ahead and try this. I think this is one of my favorite patterns for improving the quality of chat systems and chat requests. Now, in terms of what chat systems you should use, I have another cheat sheet here. Slack, Discord, and Microsoft Teams are the best. They are also the defaults. These are the ones that I would recommend you use. There are hundreds of other potential systems. A few in the also-rans are Google Chat, Chanty, River, Twist, Rocket Chat, Mattermost, Flock. Again, there are literally hundreds of potential tools. I'm not going to tell you to transfer from whatever chat system you're using into one of these. I will say that I and most of the people I know tend to prefer Slack as the primary chat system. It's very friendly. It's very easy to use with other teams. Microsoft Teams is also, especially if you're dealing with the enterprise space, most of your clients are probably going to be using this. So it might be worth considering using that just to be on the same tool set. Microsoft Teams and Slack are very effective for a whole number of reasons. One of the primary is that they have a very big ecosystem of integrations and add-ons compared to other tools. Note, some project management tools also include chat as part of the system. You need to consider if you can work with those tools in that context and if it makes sense for you and your clients. And I think that's really the key here is you have to make sense and do what makes sense for you and your clients. But it's important to have a chat system that you use that enables you to have a pulse of the organization so it can be seen, it can be heard, and it allows you to move the ball faster than some of the other systems we'll be discussing this week. Next up is email systems. Thank you, and have a nice day.